It was October 2023, a couple of weeks before Halloween. I'll never forget it because I haven't been able to enjoy sleepovers since that night. It was me and my friends Jason and Kyle. The night started off normal. We stayed up late eating junk food, playing video games, and watching movies. Around midnight, Kyle dared us to sneak into Jason's garage and grab a few beers from the fridge his parents kept out there. We all thought it was a stupid dare, but Jason and I went along with it. We crept through the kitchen and opened the garage door as quietly as we could. Jason switched on the garage light, and that's when we saw it. The side door that led to the backyard was cracked open. Jason froze and whispered, "Did you leave that open earlier?" I shook my head. We both just stood there for a moment, staring at the door. It was dark outside, and we couldn't see anything past the doorway. Jason walked over and shut it, locking it with a loud click. He muttered something about the wind, but I could tell he was freaked out. When we got back to the living room, we told Kyle and Tyler about the door, but they just laughed and called us paranoid. We let it go and started a movie to distract ourselves. About 30 minutes into the movie, we heard a faint thud coming from the kitchen. It sounded like something heavy had fallen or been knocked over. Jason paused the movie, and we all looked. "Probably the fridge making noise," Jason said, but his voice was shaky. Tyler wasn't buying it. "We should check it out." Reluctantly, we all got up and walked into the kitchen. Everything looked normal at first, but then Jason pointed at the back door. It was wide open. None of us spoke for a second. Jason swore he had locked it earlier, and I believed him because I'd been there when he did. "Maybe it didn't catch," Kyle said, but even he sounded unsure. Jason locked the door again, this time double-checking it, and we all agreed to stay in the living room for the rest of the night. We were about halfway through another movie when we heard a loud bang from upstairs. It sounded like something heavy had hit the floor. Jason's face went pale. That sounded like my parents' room. Kyle tried to act tough, saying it was probably just something falling off a shelf, but Tyler whispered, "What if someone's upstairs?" None of us wanted to admit we were scared, but we all grabbed something to defend ourselves. Jason grabbed a baseball bat, I picked up a kitchen knife, and Tyler held a heavy lamp. As we crept up the stairs, Jason's parents' bedroom door was closed. He hesitated, then slowly pushed it open. The room was empty, but the window was wide open, the curtains blowing in the breeze. We were all too freaked out to even go near it. Jason closed the door and locked it from the outside. "We're staying downstairs," he said. Back in the living room, we locked all the doors and windows and turned off the lights, hoping whoever or whatever was messing with us would leave. But around 3 a.m., things got worse. While we were sitting in silence, we heard a faint tapping on the living room window. Kyle whispered, "Don't look." But Jason didn't listen. He grabbed his flashlight and shone it at the window. For a split second, we saw a figure standing there. They were wearing dark clothes and a hood, and their face was completely covered. Jason shouted, "Go away!" Then we heard the back door rattle. At this point, Tyler called 911 while Jason and I pushed the couch against the door. The operator told us to stay on the line and stay quiet. We all huddled together, clutching our makeshift weapons as we listened to footsteps moving around the house. They searched the house but didn't find anyone. Don't know who it was or what they wanted, but none of us ever stayed at Jason's house overnight again.
It was January of 2024. I was 16 and it happened on a Friday night. My parents were out of town for a work conference, hours away, and they wouldn't be back until Sunday. I'd stayed home alone before, but this night was different. School had let out earlier that evening and I'd taken the bus home. It was one of those freezing winter nights where the sun sets too early and everything feels eerily still. The heater on the bus barely worked and the windows were frosted over. I kept my head down, earbuds in, until my stop came up. The street was quiet, just the crunch of snow under my boots. My house was at the end of the block, and as I walked, I noticed something odd. The porch light was off. My parents always left it on when they knew I'd be home alone. It sent a little shiver down my spine, but I told myself it was just a burnt-out bulb. Inside, the house felt colder than usual, the kind of cold that sinks into your skin. I flipped on the lights, dropped my bag by the door, and headed to the kitchen for a snack. I turned on the TV in the living room to break the silence, but even then, the house felt too quiet. About an hour later, I heard it. A knock at the front door. Not loud, just a light, deliberate tapping. I froze. Who would be knocking at my door at this time? I crept up to the door and peeked through the peephole. No one was there. I stared for a minute, trying to figure it out. Maybe it was the wind, or a prank. I sat back down, trying to shake the feeling that something was wrong. But then it happened again. This time, the knock was louder. My heart started racing. I grabbed my phone and called my friend Jake. "Hey, someone's knocking on my door, but no one's there," I said. He laughed, but it wasn't the comforting kind of laugh. "Dude, it's probably just some kid messing with you." As I was explaining, I heard it, the crunch of snow coming from outside the living room window. I froze, my blood running cold. "Jake," I whispered, "someone's outside." His tone changed immediately. "Lock the doors now." I ran around the house, locking every door and window I could think of, but then my stomach sank. I hadn't checked the back door when I got home. With Jake still on the line, I crept toward the kitchen, gripping a knife from the counter. My palms were sweating as I rounded the corner, and there it was. The back door was slightly open, swinging gently in the wind. Before I could react, I heard it, a loud thud from upstairs. My chest tightened, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. "Jake," I whispered, "I think they're inside." "Get out of the house right now," he said, panic in his voice, but I couldn't move. My legs felt like lead. I forced myself up the stairs, step by step, following the sound. The hallway was dark, but at the end of it, my bedroom door was ajar, and light spilled out into the hallway. And then I saw them. Muddy footprints, leading straight into my room, I whispered. "Jake, they're in my room. Leave. Don't go in there." But before I could turn back, I saw it, a shadow moving across my doorway. That was it. I bolted back down the stairs, out the front door, and into the freezing night. I didn't stop running until I reached my neighbor's house. I pounded on their door until they let me in, shaking and barely able to explain what had happened. They called the police, and when the officers arrived, they searched the house. Though back door was wide open, the footprints led all through the house, upstairs, downstairs, but nothing was missing. It was like whoever it was didn't want to steal anything. They just wanted to scare me. The police never figured out who it was or how long they'd been inside. To this day, I can't stay home alone without looking over my shoulder, wondering if someone's watching.